Hello traders, Rich here and welcome to a new episode on how to analyze any chart from scratch without using any indicators, just by applying basic price action concepts and market structure 101. So let's get started, and as usual, cheers. Today we have episode number 16, which is a crypto instrument idea. And for those who are not familiar with the series, don't worry, I'll make sure to attach the playlist, which includes all the videos by order in the description below. So enjoy it. And for those who are watching this episode number 16, let's get into it. Of course, for those who already know, who watched the previous episodes, know that we start from the higher time frames, weekly and daily, to know where we stand in the market. Are we overall bullish, bearish, or stuck inside a range, right? So as price approaches the lower bound or the support, it can be horizontal, just like this one, or non-horizontal, just like these two. We'll be looking obviously for buy setups. And as price approaches the upper bound or the resistance area, it can also be horizontal or non-horizontal. We'll be looking for sell setups. So it's very important to start from the higher time frames to get the bigger picture, because half of the work is already done, right? So now you know what to look for. Then you zoom into your time frames, H4, H1, or M30 even, sometimes to look for triggers, for extra confirmation, for a shift in momentum from a short-term perspective to be lined up with a long-term perspective. And so the step one is, of course, for those who already know, if you don't know, don't worry, you can watch the previous ones, or you can just you get an idea about it from this specific one. So start by drawing our support and resistance. And like most of the time, especially for crypto stocks and indices, you may not find like many typical support and resistance where you have many failed attempts to break above or below a certain level. That's why, first of all, you try to go for support and resistance. If you don't find like much, you can then go for round numbers, supply and demand zones, and trend lines. Okay, so let's start with our support and resistance and let's see how it goes. The way to do it is very simple. You can draw a random line on your chart, start from the top. This is what I personally do, and drag and drop it in a way to connect as many swings as possible. So we need major swings where price made previously like high impact. So like we don't want like very, very small swings. So this is an entire swing. And this is not like 2-3 swings. This is one swing. This is another swing. This is one swing. Okay. So drag and drop it, and for example here we don't have any, but I'll keep it anyway because it's the all-time high and it's the round number one. Anyway, we'll get into round numbers in a bit, but I couldn't resist drawing it. So let's continue from here. We don't have anything to mention, only one swing, and like this is like the opening of this particular one, like specifically for KuCoin. And if we go down, we can only connect 1 and 2. So we don't have anything to mention. Of course, it's a good one, but like it's not a typical support and resistance where we have at least 3 failed attempts, or by connecting at least 3 highs and lows. Okay, so let's keep moving forward. Okay, I can see a very strong one here, which is around this area. We've got a rejection here, a rejection here as well. And of course, it's also a supply, but we'll get into supply in a bit. And recently, the price is rejecting it now. And it happens to be that it's also a round number, which is 0.5. So inside this chart, which is trading between like 0 or 0.1 to 1, the strongest round numbers, and we already done it, right? We don't need to go over round numbers next because we already did it. So it's like obviously 0.1, like 0.5 and 1. Of course, we don't go for every single one. We still have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but the strongest one, and as you already know, like round numbers, you have to go for the most obvious ones, which is for this one is the all-time high and the all-time low in this particular chart. And this is like the median or the middle point between these two. Of course, next you have like 0.75, which is the quarter, 0.75 and 0.25, right? You know what? Anyway, let's draw it. I'll make them in green. So 75. And as you can see, it's lining up with these wicks. And let's go for 0.25, which is lining up perfectly with these ones. And like for those who know my previous analysis on TradingView, I've highlighted this one and the round number 3, which is like a little bit higher to cover the previous wicks. So I was waiting for a break above the 0.3, to cover these wicks here. Okay, but anyway, we'll get into it in a bit. Okay, so now, and like when I was scrolling down, I wanted to like connect this one here anyway, because like it's like connecting many swings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so many swings around this area. So this one actually is a typical support and resistance, and it's an entire zone, of course, not a laser level. So now we know why I added the 0.3. First of all, like to treat it or to see it visually as an actual zone. Second, to cover this swing around this area. Okay, and of course these wicks here. So this is an entire support and resistance area. It was acting as a support previously. Price was pushing it or like pushing price upward. Then price broke it downward with many bearish candles. So now it's turned into a resistance. Once, twice, again and again, and finally now the price broke upward after a couple of months. I've been posting like analysis for idea for a long period of time, that, and I keep on saying that we are waiting for price to break this resistance for the boost to take over again and again and again. And meanwhile, inside this big range, which we saw at the beginning, that if you are in a range or bearish or bullish, right? So in this particular case, we were inside this range. So we were doing what? We were looking for the price to approach the lower bound to look for buy setups. So around these areas here, we were looking, actually, we drew our channel and we were looking for buy setup. And I also posted this one like on TradingView. So now let's get into the current price. I don't like to talk about the past because it's very easy to say like I've done this when you see the outcome, right? That's why I always, if you noticed from all my analysis, I always like to post analysis about the current price, as it would be a practical example for you to know what to look for. Okay, of course, like if you would like me to like make a video about like doing backtesting or doing anything about the history, I don't mind it. But like, this is not my trading style. This is not my vision. It's like I like practical learning as much as possible. That's why like our members get a group where they post their charts for review live. Okay. Anyway, long story short, we already got our levels. These are the strongest ones. This is actually the only support and resistance, and we also have one here, right? But it's like only connecting two swings, but it's actually the all-time low. But the only support and resistance in this chart is this one and this one as well. So the 0.25 and the offset of it around 3, and of course the 0.5, and we also can make an offset for it, which would be around this area covering these wicks here around 0.50. 5. And let's make this one in blue as well. Here we go, right? So this is actually it. Now, just from daily time frame, we didn't do anything yet. We know actually where we are in the market. We are trading inside this floor, where this is our resistance and this is our support. So now as price, as you can see, is approaching the support area, we'll be looking for buy setups. So now we are done with our support and resistance. Let's see if we can draw any trend lines. I doubt that we can draw any, because like we only have like this big swing. So like even if we draw this one here, like it wouldn't be like that relevant to the current price action. But anyway, if you'd like to keep it, that's not wrong, but it would also add like more confluence, or as it is the intersection also with the support area. But like to keep my chart clean, because anyway I'll be looking for buy setups here, I will not include this trend line. Okay. So I like, of course, like previously we had this trend line 1, 2, 3, 4 connecting many swings, but also I didn't draw it like even previously. Anyway, it's now like already in the past, so we should not draw it. But like previously, I didn't draw it because I already have my resistance here. So I want, if price breaks upward, I would like to wait for price to break above the resistance anyway for extra confirmation. And of course, once the resistance is broken, we'll be looking for buy stops on the retest, which was around this area. And we were looking for buy anyway. I also posted this one on TradingView. So now we know what we are in the market around support and resistance. We can't draw any trend lines actually. Let's try and find our supply and demand zones. Okay, as we mentioned previously, we have a supply zone here. It's actually a drop base, which is a small consolidation, and then a drop again. So it was, in fact, a very, very strong supply zone, and price respected it around this area. Of course, we had this big wick, and then the price like went down from it. So it was a fresh supply. Now it's no longer valid. It's already filled. So it is no longer valid. We previously had a demand here, explosive movement upward. So that's what we're actually looking for, explosive movements in the market. So we also had this supply, and also the price filled it around this area. So it's no longer acting as a strong one. For now, the zone is just around number 0.75. Okay. And lately, okay, so now we don't have anything. All the previous ones are already filled, either the supply, either this, this demand and this supply. Sometimes I get overexcited. So let's get a break. Okay, so for the fresh ones, we have this demand area, right? As we had lately, like last week, an explosive movement upward from it. So it is a fresh demand zone. So now if price went down and break this this support area, the next rejection would be this demand area. Okay, but anyway, now we'll not draw it because we already have our support zone around here, which might be the next rejection zone. So that's from daily. We can't really add anything new. We know that we are inside this floor. Here's our resistance, here's our support. So now let's zoom into lower time frames to see if we can add anything new. And of course, what we know so far from daily only, that as price approaches this lower support area, we'll be looking for buy setups. So now from H4, I can't really find much. Or we know that the price broke above this area, then made this correction, and then failed to make another higher high. So we're expecting the price to make an impulse correction, then another impulse. While from daily, it's still possible. So we have this impulse, and we are currently still in the correction phase. So now as price approaches this support area, we'll be looking then for the next impulse, which would result in a higher high, or in this case, with a new all-time high, as our all-time high previously was around 1. So we were overall bullish, higher highs, high lows, and then the price broke below the previous low, so got inside this range, and now finally we have this movement upward. So now the buyers took over, we are in this correction, so we are looking for buy stops to catch the next impulse, because as mentioned like many times before, when we are overall bullish, we'll be waiting for the correction to be about to end to catch the next impulse. But we can't really know where the correction would end. It can end here, it can dive a little bit lower or even lower before going up. That's why even though we are overall bullish, we don't buy blindly. Okay, even though we are overall bullish, we always wait for a key rejection area, which is in our particular case around this area here, and we also have like a minor demand area, as we had an explosive movement upwards from here too. So price can still like reject this area before retesting the support. So we need a rejection area first. Second, we zoom into lower time frames because we want the buyers to prove to us that they are taking over again, because now clearly, and at least from a short-term perspective or a medium-term perspective, the bears are in control. And if you want, we can also zoom to H1. We can see the picture even clearer. And if I zoom in, I can show you like a pretty good example that IDEA has been respecting very well lately. So we have this impulse correction, and the price failed to make a higher high, instead made a lower high. So high, this is our high, higher high, higher high, low, higher low, higher low. Then the price made a lower high. And then, which is an early alert that the buyers are exhausted and aren't strong enough to push the price higher as they were doing before. Okay, and then made a lower high, then broke below the previous low. When price, when IDEA broke this candle below this low, then we know that the bears are taking over, and as a result expect a shift in momentum from bullish to bearish, at least from H1 from a short-term perspective. So we had this low, broke below it. Let me make it in gray for our for our last swing. Here we go. So after this candle, now we are bearish and the price started to make lower highs. Here we go, and lower lows. And then the price failed to make a lower low again, made a higher low, and then went up and broke above the previous high. So now we know that the buyers are taking over, which happens to be where? Happens to be also around this 0.3 support area. And then the price started to make higher highs and higher lows, then failed to make a higher high, just like previously, failed to make a higher high. And of course, like it's different than this price action, but the logic and idea is still the same. So higher highs and higher lows, then price failed to make a higher high, instead made a lower high and broke below the previous low, which is around here. So now we are overall bearish. And again, you don't want to buy a bearish market. And of course, unless you are already holding it from this area, then you are already in profit. Okay, but for now, if you are planning to get in fresh and you are still not holding this one, it's always better to wait for extra confirmation. And this particular case, as mentioned previously, higher highs, higher lows, then a lower high broke below the previous low, we are bearish, and now the price is making what? Again and again, the same old story, just like previously, lower high, low low, lower high, low low. Of course, lower low. Here are our lower lows. Okay, so lower highs, lower lows, and we are waiting for what? Just like previously, we are waiting for price to break above the previous high, which is now, for example, around this area here. Okay, so for now, this is our last high. Just like previously, this was our last high and the price made a new high. So this is now our last high. So for now, we are bearish, waiting for the price or for idea in general to break above the previous high, which is in this particular case around this area. Here's our gray area. Of course, if price trades lower and makes a new high, then we will update our last high. Of course, like because I make this video today, maybe like you see it after a couple of days, so you know what to do if the price makes a lower high. And this is like the main aim of my videos, is not to like follow it blindly, but to know what to look for and to learn like the idea of it, to apply it on any different instrument. So after like 16 episodes, if you watch them all, then you already have a pretty good idea on how to apply it on any chart, any market, any instrument, because like we've covered indices, stocks, forex, crypto, commodities. Like we are trying to do like to analyze all the markets, and the logic and approach is always the same, as you already noticed from the previous ones. So we are bearish, and we can also, for example, draw a channel, which I also posted like a couple of days ago. So we are now inside this channel, overall bearish, and for the buyers to take over again, we'll need to see a break above the previous high, which is now around this area. And meanwhile, and until the price break above the previous high, we would be overall bearish, and idea can still trade lower, form a new high, for example here, then we will update our last high, and then we'll be entering a buy on its break upward, which is obviously, or like as mentioned previously, this is our next support, but idea can still reverse from here, because we also have a demand zone, which we saw this explosive. Here we go. Let me zoom in. I don't want to see these on daily. This is how you make your chart clean. Fantastic. This is it. And this is our demand area. This is the entire demand. And I personally like to make it in green. And okay, fantastic. I can see it from H1 now. This is the entire green demand area, which from weekly, but like to make it cleaner, I make it a little bit lower. So this is it. So price, it was like this, right? So price can still trade higher from here because we have a demand area, but we need extra confirmation, waiting for the previous high to be broken upward, which is here. Or if price trades lower, waiting for a new high to be formed, and then we can like confirm that the buyers are taking over by breaking above the previous high. Here's the zoom out picture. We are now overall bullish. We had this impulse from daily. Now we are in correction phase, and like inside this correction phase, we also have this impulse and correction, and we are trying to catch the next impulse movement. So we zoom into lower time frames, And for now, we are bearish. So we are bullish from a long-term perspective, bearish from a short-term perspective, looking for buy setups, looking for the buyers to take over, because now the bears are in control, looking for buyers to take over so that the long-term view and the short-term view would be lining up together. In this case, then and only then we'll be looking for a buy to catch the next impulse movement. So that's it for our idea. And of course, like unless we have a break below our support, then we'll get stuck inside this range again until we see a break above it again, and so on. But for now, and as per the current market conditions, we are bullish, very bullish from daily, approaching a support area. That's why we are looking for buy setups. That's it for idea. Hope you like it, and I'll see you on the next episode.